I rely on the food bank. I'll wait until I get my harvest, and then I'll buy whatever fits that.
One woman's story of food insecurity has a happy ending.
A big part of the dialogue with our team and with our council and with even the province and the feds about what does happen next.
Next steps are taken on a Williams Lake land deal.
That's all baseball was about to me. Family, cheering each other on.
Play ball. Dawson City hosts a baseball tournament. Good evening, I'm Leanne Sanders. Welcome to APTN National News. A man convicted of 2 counts of manslaughter in relation to the deaths of 2 Métis hunters in Alberta had a hearing for the appeal of his 10-year sentence in Edmonton today. Roger Bilodeau was convicted of manslaughter in the shooting deaths of Jacob Sansom and Maurice Cardinal and sentenced in August of 2022. Bilodeau's son, Anthony, was convicted of 1 count of second-degree murder of Cardinal and 1 count of manslaughter of Sansom. Sansom and his uncle, Cardinal, were moose hunting near Glendon, Alberta, 200 kilometers northwest of Edmonton, when they were killed in 2020. In his appeal, the senior Bilodeau says the presiding judge made 3 errors in his instructions to the jury. A decision on the appeal has been reserved. It may take up to a month to learn if Bilodeau is granted an appeal. Anthony Bilodeau has also appealed his conviction. The Athabasca Tribal Council declared a state of emergency Thursday morning. The council, which represents 5 First Nations in northern Alberta, says they're making the declaration after 60 members of their communities have died by suicide or overdose since January. Chief Alan Adam, who's also the president of the Tribal Council, says more people have died from this crisis than during the COVID-19 pandemic. He told a news conference that the response must be adequate.
We need the federal, provincial, and municipal governments to step up and work with our communities that are already doing the work. We need funding to deliver a target, effective, sustainable, and local-led response to this mental health and addiction crisis.
The Trudeau government announced more than $60 million in funding at a press conference in Ottawa on Thursday. The money is to help the Northwest Territories and British Columbia deal with the mounting costs due to the unprecedented wildfires. Fraser Needham reports.
Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu says the government is working hard to ensure all fire-related costs for First Nations in areas like the Territories are covered.
My main message to leaders is that we will not leave people behind, and that we will make sure that people are supported with all eligible costs covered through a collaboration between the federal government and the territorial government.
She says this could include funds for any number of things.
Things like accommodations, that is where to stay and how to get to places as evacuees are moving around, transportation costs, access to food, nutrition, mental wellness, but even some practical things. Sometimes people leave in a pretty big hurry and things are forgotten, like assistive devices or medication or eyeglasses.
As part of recently signed agreements, the Northwest Territories will be able to access $32 million in federal funding and BC a little over $28 million. Minister of Northern Affairs Dan Van Dahl says the record number of wildfires this year are the result of global warming, which needs to be addressed immediately.
Northerners have been seeing some of the most devastating effects of climate change, including a longer and more active wildfire season. With the North warming up to 3 times the speed as the rest of Canada, we must act now to slow the rate of warming and help communities adapt to the climate that is constantly changing around them.
He also says the fires have exposed serious infrastructure gaps in the Territories.
This year's record wildfire season in the Northwest Territories has underlined the chronic underfunding of infrastructure in the Territories by previous governments of all stripes. While our focus right now is on assisting the territory face their immediate crisis, we remain committed to working with our territorial partners in addressing these infrastructure gaps in the long term.
As of Thursday, there were 82 active wildfires in the Northwest Territories and 411 in BC. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
3 weeks after being forced to flee, some residents of Yellowknife are finally back home.
We're very happy to head home, but it's a little stressful getting organized.
The evacuation order for Yellowknife and Dene First Nation was lifted yesterday. Fire crews managed to hold back the fire that was threatening the city. For students making their way back, school will start next Thursday. Evacuees from Hay River are still waiting to return home. Crews are battling a fire that's less than a kilometer away. In Saskatchewan, it's been a record summer for wildfire smoke. Data from Environment Canada shows Saskatoon had 282 hours of smoke in 2023 so far, breaking the previous record of 165 set way back in 1981. Regina saw 223 smoke hours. A smoke hour is counted when visibility is reduced to 9.7 kilometers or less from smoke in 1 hour. There are 18 active wildfires in Saskatchewan right now. The Gwich'in Nation is applauding a recent move by the Biden administration to cancel the remaining oil and gas leases in the Arctic National Refuge in northeast Alaska. Leases held by the state-owned Alaska Industrial Development and Export Authority were bought in the final days of the Trump administration in January 2021. While another mandated sale will take place next year, U.S. President Joe Biden says he's committed to protecting millions of acres of land and waters across the Arctic in an effort to combat climate change. Gwich'in people living in Alaska, Yukon, and the Northwest Territories say the refuge's coastal plain is a sacred birthing ground for the porcupine caribou.
It's important to just commend the administration and, of course, the Secretary, Hallen, for, taking the step with us, right, and helping to at least solidify equal playing field for us. So now we can at least take a little bit of a breather and start coming up with some longer term strategies and really look into the future.
We have to take a break now, but when we come back, we'll take you to Williams Lake, where a local First Nation has purchased the site of a former residential school.
A big part of the dialogue with our team and with our council and with even the province and the feds about what does happen next.
Welcome back. A First Nation in BC has just signed a deal with the provincial government there to purchase land where an infamous residential school once stood. APTN's Tina House has this story.
The St. Joseph's Indian Residential School was first established in 1891 and officially closed in 1981. Over 40 different nations had children that were forced to attend. Throughout the years, St. Joseph's had numerous inquiries launched due to the condition of the school, high number of student deaths, and following the closure of the school, several former staff members were imprisoned for sexual assault on students. In January of 2022, the Williams Lake First Nation announced that they had conducted Phase 1 of ground-penetrating radar on a small section where the former school once stood. They found 93 reflections that could be human burials, and a further 66 more reflections in Phase 2 of their investigation. In the 1990s, the school itself was demolished, but today, all that remains are outbuildings, a gymnasium, and foundations of the former residential school.
identifying areas of interest and where we're going to be doing the ground penetrating radar work. It's been an interesting exercise educating myself and our team on what that place used to look like and what it stood for. And a lot of trauma there, a lot of triggers there, and just making sure that we're leading with ceremony on these things is a big part of how we've been able to get through it.
The Williams Lake First Nation has just purchased the land from the provincial government so they can continue the work that needs to be done to preserve the site.
The Williams Lake First Nation, with funding from the province of British Columbia, is now the owner of the property historically associated with St. Joseph's Mission Indian Residential School. That means, thanks to this purchase, that the property will be returned to the rightful stewardship of Indigenous people and protected in perpetuity.
Chief Sellers says going forward, the community will be involved in the decisions on what to do with the land, but says further ground penetrating radar work will continue.
A big part of the dialogue with our team and with our council and with even the province and the feds about what does happen next and what can we do there, and can we excavate, and can we disturb this footprint without first confirming and identifying if those anomalies and those reflections are in fact unmarked graves.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
With food costs rising, so is the need for food donations at food banks across the country. In Winnipeg, the local food bank isn't only a place to get food donations, but a place that helped an Indigenous woman break a cycle of addictions. Tamara Pimentel has more.
For 10 years, Rena Hermkins has been here volunteering at Harvest Manitoba, but she's been using the food bank for much longer.
I rely on the food bank. I'll wait until I get my harvest, and then I'll buy whatever fits that.
But with inflation, buying those extra things is next to impossible with the rising cost of groceries.
It's been crazy. I noticed that the packages are getting smaller, the portions are getting smaller, but the prices are getting crazier.
Before becoming a volunteer a decade ago, Hermkins was facing addictions and would camp outside of the building until a manager invited her inside.
And so we showered that day. We got a brush and toothpaste, toothbrushes. Those things were so important to us. He didn't see the addict. He saw the human being.
Hermkins says food banks across the country need more support. Since COVID-19, the need for food banks in Manitoba has gone up 150%. 40% of the recipients are Indigenous. For Hermkins, food banks like Harvest Manitoba are more than a place to get food donations, but a place that could turn a life around, like it's done for her.
And since then, I've been sober 9 years. Yeah, so it took me a year to clean up, but with that kind of start, with that help, it was solid foundation.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Time for another short break. When we return, we'll have a look at an Indigenous festival in Australia. Plus, a Dawson City baseball tournament hits a home run in the northern community.
That's all baseball was about to me. Family, cheering each other on.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. In case you missed the blue moon a few nights ago, Clarence Jones sent in this great photo. A blue moon only happens once every 2 to 3 years. It's the third full moon when the astronomical season has 4 such moons. If you have a recent photo to share across the nation, send that photo to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. 28 in Charlottetown tomorrow and Halifax 30. Newfoundland and Labrador, Nain 9. Quebec, Saguenay 25, Quebec City 29. North Bay 17, Toronto 22. Timmins 18 and Thunder Bay 20. Churchill 16, and The Paw 21. Gimli and Winnipeg 23, Brandon 24. Yorkton and Regina 23, North Battleford and Saskatoon 20. Stony Rapids 16, and Buffalo Narrows and La Ronge, Meadow Lake all 20 tomorrow. Northern Alberta High Level and Grand Prairie 20 tomorrow. Down south, Calgary 17 and Edmonton 22. In BC, Bella Coola 24, Kamloops and Penticton 27. Further north, Fort Nelson 20 and Prince Rupert 17. Old Crow 10, Dawson 11 and Whitehorse 12. Waughty 19 and Yellowknife 16. Inuvik 8 and Fort McPherson 6. Baker Lake 11 tomorrow and Chesterfield 7. In Nunavut, we're looking at 4 for Iqaluit and Clyde River 7. Dawson City, Yukon has been the hub of a Labor Day softball tournament for 29 years. Teams from Alaska, the Northwest Territories, and Yukon are back after 3 years of pandemic border restrictions. A team of wildfire evacuees from Yellowknife also showed up. Carly Jogner has this story.
During the summer, ball is life. Like, everybody lives at the field. It's a good atmosphere, so much fun.
That's second year in a row most valuable player, Kathleen Nogasak of Inuvik and Tuktoyaktuk, for hitting home runs.
I hit a bomb. Only woman to hit a bomb, too. But it was there was another girl in the running, and I'm happy they chose me.
As hockey is for winter, baseball is a staple for the Mackenzie River Beaufort Delta region summer, with tournaments from June to end of August. Going to the September Labor Day weekend Dawson tournament, for many, is the last hurrah before the snow comes. Winning last year as the first team from the NWT, the Berry Pickers brought in a Yellowknife evacuee, originally from the Arctic Ocean coast of Tuktoyaktuk.
Yeah, I play in Yellowknife because I'm a evacuee. I play for Harleys and BFTA in Yellowknife, but I'm a berry picker at heart. That's where I started playing. Thanks to Barry, man. Like this, we are the BARRY pickers because Barry is our captain, our pitcher, and he's done a phenomenal job kind of bringing us all together and making us a team. So yeah, and props to Barry.
Big freaking thank you to Dawn too. Even if you're just starting out, do it.
Yeah.
Like practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
Inuvala and Gwich'in team members from Inuvik and Fort McPherson drove the nearly 800 kilometers along the Dempster Highway for the tournament.
It's my second time. It's good to be back in Dawson and playing a part of the Labor Day weekend tournament. I've always played with my family in Sigachik. Always played together. That's all baseball was about to me. Family, cheering each other on. Juliet, Trish, she sponsored us, and she, straight from the beginning, she told us that we were a family, and that's what pumped us up. It's all about love, sharing love, and giving love, and everybody, even through the Alaskan teams, we played good with them, good sportsmanship, and just pumping each other up.
In the final game Sunday evening, Fairbanks Alaskan team Skeeters won against another Alaskan team back from a 3-year hiatus from the pandemic border restrictions.
I've been coming to this tournament in '99, and I've been playing softball probably since I was like 15 years old. From Fairbanks, I'm from North Carolina, live in Fairbanks, Alaska, retired Army guy, but bringing us together is like a family for one weekend. And then coming to Dawson, it's more of a family because I get to meet so many people. I get to trade with people, I get to talk with people. It's always good to get the sweetness of the cup, but you have awesome teams here. The competition has become phenomenal here in Dawson. But the Juliets, the Berry Pickers, I tell you, they have me wanting to be from Tuck, you hear me? So it's pretty awesome. I want to thank Don for putting the tournament on. Thank you for having us.
Dawn Kassoon is originally from Inuvik. Next year will be 30 years since the tournament began in 1994, she says. Carly Schogner, APTN National News, land of the Trondek Gwich'in, Dawson City.
Now to Australia, where we have partnered with the National Indigenous Television Network. They covered the Garma Festival earlier this summer, which is the largest Indigenous gathering in Australia. Here's a profile of one of the performers.
For our Yolngu people, that what we painted up. When we painted like that, that's for Iricha tribe is Blair. And just putting one for Doha clan groups is Wangopini, like a cloud. When we put in the body paintings, make us stand up really high, like be strong, make you proud more. So you can dance strongly and you can sing strongly because that's a paint is make you more strong. My name is Jakabura Munyariun. My clan group is Wangure. The elders told me that what songs I want to do. Like we always get it from the elders gonna give you permission that you can sing songs about this and all that stuff because, you know, I get always from the elders because I gotta go through them. When I was growing up, start singing. I started singing in front of the old people. You know, and had no shame and all that stuff. And, you know, I was standing there and proud and, you know, and that's why that elders chose me that I gotta be the young leader of Manike is the song. I think I get the courage from my father and my father's brother. He was the leader of Manike, the song. And I get it from them, that confidence. When I perform with millions and millions of people, you know, I never get nervous, like, you know, because I started from when I was young. You know, you just stay there like proud and show the culture to the world, sharing that knowledge to other people, and showing that where we are, like where I come from, where's my root is. My goal is working with young people. You know, telling the stories about in our culture, teach the young people our musics, our songs and dance. You know, that's the things I want to do with young people. When I'm in my own country, sitting around in the calm, you just want to listen to the wind and birds and the trees and the water. In a spiritual way, it's that. And then the land talking to you and give you more, the songs and the knowledge that everything's what we got from the earth.
That's all we have for you this evening. If you'd like to see more on these and other stories, head over to our website, aptn.ca. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.